The arming of Russia by South Africa with the vessel that landed in Simonstown is fundamentally unacceptable. We are confident that weapons were loaded onto that vessel, and I would bet my life on the accuracy of that assertion.
What's up, everybody? I hope you're all doing good. Today is a beautiful day. It's very sunny outside, but we're going to talk about something quite obscure, unfortunately, today. We're talking about South Africa again. The South African government has been accused by the US Embassy to provide weapons to Russia. This is big. The ambassador of the United States to South Africa has said that there is a ship that came from South Africa that was shipped to Russia with weaponry. We're talking about ammunitions to obviously help Russia in its war against Ukraine. And they made it very public, and the South African government is not very happy about that. The President Cyril Ramaphosa was confronted by opposition leaders with a question that's very embarrassing, asking him how come him as a president of the republic is he not aware that there was a ship that was loaded with ammunitions sent to Russia? It means he's not fit to run the country. If he knows that South Africa is shipping weaponry to Russia, it means he's complicit to the war of Ukraine. The presidency has responded in an open letter. The presidency responds to claim of weaponry supplied to Russia made by US ambassador. The presidency has noted with concern remarks attributed to the United States ambassador to South Africa, Ruben E. Brigetti, alleging the supply by South Africa of weapons to Russia. The ambassador's remark undermined the spirit of cooperation and partnership that characterized the recent engagement between US government official and South African official delegation led by National Security Special Advisor to the President, Dr. Sidney Mulufali. So they had a meeting, they discussed the matter. They supposedly saw a ship a while back in Simonstown that was loaded with weapons to Russia. And they had a discussion and they said they're going to work on it. But the US ambassador decided to make an open statement undermining what was agreed at the time. It is public knowledge that a Russian vessel known as Lady R docked in South Africa. Allegation has since been made about the purpose of the voyage. While no evidence has been provided to date to support this allegation, the government has undertaken to institute an independent inquiry to be led by a retired judge. So the government started doing some work on it, despite the fact there was allegation that the Lady R docked in South Africa from Russia came to get weapons. In recent engagement between South Africa delegation and US official, the Lady R matter was discussed and there was an engagement, an agreement that the investigation will be allowed to run its course and that the US intelligence service will provide whatever evidence in their possession. It is therefore disappointing that the US ambassador has adopted a counterproductive public posture that undermines the understanding reached on a matter at the very positive, constructive engagement between the two delegations. Very interesting. So you can see here there's emphasis in undermining the agreement that was taken, undermining the approach that was agreed. And this is not the first time, fellas. I don't know if you remember, a while back, a US ambassador came forward with information saying that they're going to be bombing in Sandton. Do you remember that? Yeah, they said they're going to bomb. People should be very careful of Sandton because there's going to be an explosion. And the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, said this is undermining the power of a country. How can you provide such information without checking with the security services of the country? I mean, how can you go to somebody's country and say, oh, be careful, make it public on your own ways, okay, on your own manner? They're going to be bombing in such place without necessarily talking to the security services of the host. That is not respect. You cannot give this type of information without necessarily checking with the host. The least that you could do is to speak to the host about what's going to happen so the host can provide the information in a way that best fits its population. So this is the second time talking about undermining the cooperation. The US ambassador accuses South Africa of giving weapons or ammunition to Russia in a war against Ukraine. Now, what are the risks for South Africa? The risks are very simple. The United States hold a very special trade deal, which is called AGOA. AGOA helps many African countries, many countries in development to take their good in the United States at a very low tax rate or sometimes tax-free rate, which allows good exchange, progress, and many other things. So South Africa profits the best of AGOA agreement. Now, they've been threatened without necessarily saying it because the AGOA agreement has to be renewed from time to time. And what does South Africa benefit from AGOA? South Africa benefits from export of vehicles, BMWs, Mercs. South African products get special treatment, especially agricultural products. We're talking about sugarcane, maize, milk, potatoes, grapes, poultries, oranges, wheat, soybeans, beef. The industries that profit from this agreement are mining, platinum, gold, chromium, metalworking, machinery, textile, iron, steel, chemical, fertilizer, foodstuff. So many things profit from this agreement, AGOA, that the United States of America provide to many African countries. So AGOA creates over 60,000 jobs in South Africa and over 100,000 jobs in the USA. And South Africa exports over $1.7 billion worth of vehicle and many other stuff in the United States. Talking from 2014, that's about 23 billion rands now South Africa exports to the United States. Now, it's two big sides of the world that are fighting each other for power. That's what it is. Are you going to work with us or are you against us? Many countries in the world have supported Ukraine. Many countries in the world have sent weapons to Ukraine. I mean, let's just be neutral here, okay? Ukraine and Russia are fighting their war. Let's say it's their war. It's not your war. Each country has the right to choose whichever side you want to be, right? And they accuse South Africa of choosing to be neutral, but are not acting like neutral countries. So basically, they say officially that they are neutral, but South Africa is providing weaponry to Russia. But in the meantime, many countries have provided weapons to Ukraine. The largest donor of military aid to Ukraine are known. The number one donor is the United States, with $46 billion in weapons sent to Ukraine to fight Russians. Number two is the UK, with $5 billion sent in weaponry to Ukraine. Number three is the European Union, with $3.3 billion. Poland, Germany, Canada, Netherlands, all these countries have sent weapons to Ukraine to fight Russians. Now, if we're talking about freedom and, democracy, like they always bombard us with democracy, everybody has the right to do whatever they like. You can choose whoever mate you want to make mate. You can choose whoever country you want to be friend with. Why is it okay for the US to send $46 billion worth of weaponry to Ukraine, but it's not okay for South Africa, if they are sending any weapons, to send ammunition to Russia, who are direct partners of South Africa, because they are all part of the BRICS group? Doesn't make any sense. Why is it okay for the UK to send $5 billion worth of weaponry to Ukraine, but it's not okay for South Africa to send ammunition to Russia, if they are sending any ammunition, for that matter, to a country who's supposed to be their friend, direct friend, part of the BRICS group? Doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like you're either with us or you are our enemy. What about diplomacy? Everybody has the right and the choice to work with whoever they want. Let me just remind you, a while back, there was a delegation of the United States coming to Africa when the war started, and they said openly, whoever who's going to deal with Russia, whoever is going to provide Russia with commerce or trade or any economical thing will be sanctioned by the United States. Do you remember that? It was a very strong stance, very paternalistic. It didn't work because it sounded really, really rough, and many people opposed that way of going. And you remember, if you do, Naledi Pandor of South Africa speaking very openly, he said, we're not going to be intimidated by any country. We're not going to be pushed into choosing who to work with. We are free countries. We need to respect each other. Do you remember that? Watch that.
But in terms of our interaction with some of our partners in Europe and elsewhere, there has been a sense of a patronizing bullying toward you choose this or else. When we believe in freedom, as I'm saying, it's freedom for everybody. You can't say because Africa is doing this, you will then be punished by the United States. So it is important that all of us accept our ability to hold different opinions. We are, after all, sovereign nations that are regarded as equal in terms of the United Nations Charter. We may differ in terms of economic power and economic ability to influence development in different parts of the world, but what will make the world work is if we respect each other.
So in other words, we are here facing a situation where you have to choose to be in one side or the other. But if you choose whichever side, the other side makes you enemy. I don't think that is the way the world's supposed to be run. I feel like my personal view is, if the United States continues to put pressure like this, if they sanction South Africa for supposedly sending weapons or ammunition to Russia, they're going to create more enemies on the continent, because then people will feel like you truly are the bully people say you are. Because this is the feeling that many countries feel. Many countries have the feeling that the United States of America has turned into a big bully in the world. You're gonna do things the way we want it, or you're gonna suffer the consequences. You're gonna be sanctioned. You're not gonna be using the dollar. We're gonna freeze your account internationally. And that's the reason why many countries have opted for alternative measures, such as SWIFT. The SWIFT platform, which allows countries to trade, to send money from one place to the other within seconds, has been used many times as a weapon against countries who refuse to align themselves with the West. And therefore, the more you use something as a punishment to people, what happens? They try to find a way that are alternative to your ways. That's the reason why Russia and China and many other countries have come up with different way, a different platform that goes against SWIFT. And we know that the BRICS group are going to be having their meeting very shortly in August in South Africa. And they're going to be discussing the new currency they're going to be using for trade. They will not be using dollars anymore. I get the feel that at this point, if you feel like you're pressing people a little too much and you are the dominant power and it's not working, I feel like you should back down a little bit. Because the more you push, make sure it's effective. If it's not necessarily effective in a tremendous way, you're going to be losing your power forever. And this is what's happening right now. The rand against the US dollars, the rand has taken a hit since 24 hours. The rand was previously at 16 rand for $1. 24 hours later, the rand is at 19. Is this the result of what's happening with the United States? We don't know. So guys, let me know what you feel. Is it okay that Europe can send weapons and ammunitions and tanks and choppers and all that stuff, missiles and bombs to Ukraine, but it's not okay for any other country to send anything in cooperation with Russia? Is that the fair world we want to see? Let me know how you feel. God bless.